What's happening, everybody? So, I don't know about you guys, but I've always had issues keeping my cuff bolts on my aggressive inline skates. On my 908s, the cuff bolts, sometimes they'd stay on, sometimes they would fall off. 908 cuff bolts are pretty good. I think I used the blue Loctite on those and it seemed to work okay. I don't know. 909s, at one point I put the blue Loctite on the cuff bolts and it seemed to work. Then I switched over to the Fruit Tech cuff bolts, which have the torque screw and they're made of stainless steel. Super, super awesome cuff bolts. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, maybe because I left some leftover Loctite on there, I couldn't get them to stay on with the blue Loctite. It's definitely not the cuff bolt. It's probably the fact that I didn't clean off the threads. So then suggested to me was just use some plumber's tape and wrap it around the thread. Now that definitely worked for a little bit. The cuff bolts were still slowly turning off. And by the end of a session, I'd have one that would start to get a little loose. Didn't fall off, stayed on, but I don't want my cuff bolts turning at all. I've also seen this suggested before, but I wasn't sure about it. Loctite Red Permanent Hold. I think it's Red 271. It does say permanent on there. However, it suggests to get it off that you can use heat. It said something like 400 degrees or something like that, or 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I don't know if you want to do that, especially when you got plastic surrounding your cuff bolt. You definitely don't want to mess up your shell applying a bunch of heat. Now, to make the application a little easier, I don't know if you can see this, but I've been putting tape on the inside of my cuff where the cuff bolts go. Now, the reason why I do that is to protect my liner from getting scuffed up by maybe the threads sticking through on my cuff bolt. But in this situation, it definitely helped out with the application of the red Loctite. So now, instead of putting it on the thread of the cuff bolt itself, I actually dropped it into the threads of the receiver. And since the tape was on the back side of the receiver, it made like a nice little bowl of red Loctite. So basically, I was able to fill up the thread on the receiver with Loctite. And then I screwed on the cuff bolts, and I did that for all the cuff bolts on my skates, and I let them sit for 24 hours. You gotta be careful, because on the Loctite, it says that it will cure or something in 10 minutes, but to really get peak performance, you gotta let your skates sit for 24 hours. Does the red 271 Loctite work? Well, so far, I've been on countless sessions, and these cuff bolts have not even moved a smidge. They haven't even turned the slightest bit. I'm not exactly sure how I'll get them off. Since it's a torque screw for the cuff bolt, because it's Fruit Tech hardware, that I should be able to hopefully twist it off with enough leverage. I can't imagine that it wouldn't come off and that the only way to get it off is heat, but that could be the case if you try this. I've been riding the upper cuff height on the 909 for a really long time now. I don't think I'm gonna change that. But yeah, doing that on both of my 909s, so far, this Fruit Tech cuff bolt has not moved a smidge. It has not turned the tiniest bit, and I'm super, super happy about that. Now, of course, with all that being said, you know, I weigh about 155 pounds. I skate a lot of mini parks, and it's rare that I'm doing mega drops or giant handrails. But so far, it seems to be working for me. If you have a similar style and weight, whatever, maybe this will work for you if you're having trouble keeping your cuff bolts on. Just remember, it's supposed to be a permanent hold according to the Loctite package, but I can tell you it's definitely holding really, really, really well. So I think that's what I'm gonna do from now on if I have cuff bolt issues. Loctite Red 271. Again, just applying to the receiver threads. Actually, I think it might have said on the package not to get it on plastic or something like that. I assume that's ordinary plastic. This stuff's pretty tough. I haven't had any issues with it doing anything to the plastic, but I also didn't squirt it all over. I was pretty clean about it. And Fruit Tech cuff bolts are awesome. And these torque screws are legit. Right now, this skate is fully Fruit Tech'd out. I got the sole plate bolts, the frame bolts, and the cuff bolts, and the screws holding on my Keikoa strap are all Fruit Tech hardware. Awesome, awesome stuff. That's why I'm wearing the shirt for the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, or if you have any other ideas that might work for you. That thing, that's a cuff bolt. It's holding on my cuff.